Kathleen Jagger. I know I haven't made it completely around the room to meet everyone, but I'm the new president here at Newman. And I would love to say hello to each of you before you leave today. But we're here to honor Sister Margaret Knoeber. And I can't think of anybody who would be more inspirational and more representative than Sister. Of course, I did not know her personally, but I think that her experience as a pioneer is certainly inspiring. The things she accomplished, I think her PhD in the 60s, when a lot of colleges weren't even open to women yet, much less for PhD programs. And when you read the story of her life, you really was always listening to the call of Christ. That, if nothing else, is inspiring to me, to be able to take those steps of faith to move from one occupation, from one calling, that voice asking you to move on to something new. That's a great impact on many students. And when you think about our mission of empowering students to change the world, boy, she lived that mission clearly. So I want Sister up here. Welcome to everybody to our campus. It is an honor and a privilege to remember all the wonderful things, memories that you have about Sister. And I think we're ready to pray together.
Dr. Jagger, this is being live streamed, just so you know, so people who could not come will join us. Almost immediately when Sister Margaret died, and because of COVID, we had the idea we needed to do something over here to allow many of you to come join in remembering Margaret. And so that birthed what we are celebrating today. So we're going to begin with this prayer of remembrance. We are also going to use it to close today. We're going to be sharing memories that you... So as you see on the sheet, the prayer comes from a Jewish service that means remembrance. And why don't we do this? Take the first stanza, second stanza, and just alternate, okay? That way it'd be easier to stay together. Sun, and it's going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in summer, we remember her. Beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are, we remember her. When we have joys to yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we shall live, for she is now part of us, and together as we. So our intent this afternoon is to come, and you've already been doing this, sharing. Laura graciously put together the about aspects of Margaret's life, which you can watch as people come to share. And what we're going to ask is that you come up to the microphone, because we are live streaming, so that people are able to, and introduce yourselves. We will share as long as any of you want to, and then we'll close again with the prayer. For the sake of those of you who are seeing this live streaming, I'm Sister. I have been at the University of Margaret on the leadership team of the Adores. So I'm going to, in the biography you received, many of Margaret's achievements are present, and I'm not going to go back and reiterate those because you can read those. She just, as most of you know, capacities, and in such very creative ways. That creativity and that sense of service was also very present in our 6 years on the leadership team. One of the things that I especially remember was her vision, and at the same time her ability to administrate, and that blend of big picture and practical, moving things forward in the arena of everyday activity. We prayed together. A favorite theme that Margaret would use was from the Book of Wisdom. And she often prayed asking God for the gift of wisdom, but also being grateful for the gift of her life. Her service at Newman, we also know it was marked with wisdom. I have to admit, I first met Margaret, I was a little intimidated. And probably this might be part of some of your experience too, because we all knew and her being accepted into the program at Notre Dame as one of the first women in the PhD organic chemistry program attests to that. And as you got to know Margaret though, you also knew that Margaret was very human and very helpful and always wanted to try to make you feel comfortable at a pedestal. So Margaret had that uncanny ability of both making you feel comfortable, also at the same time you had a sense, or at least I had a sense about her intellectual prowess and looking to implement that. I remember when the multiple sclerosis was diagnosed, because I was here then, and as it began to take hold of you, also her losing dexterity in her hands, I remember how difficult that was for Margaret and the struggle it was when she students so much, the struggle that was to accept it. And then she was gifted, thank God, with this time of remission before the MS came back to be more active. And again, she accepted this cross. It really was a cross, and she carried it gracefully in her life. She no longer has that cross. And the picture of her, like even that one with the clouds behind, that's how I envision Margaret now, just celebrating life and being among the clouds, and life is good and no more. So in any order you want for what come up now, just make sure that you're standing so that the camera can pick you up. Introduce yourself and share whatever you want to share of your memories of Sister Margaret. Who wants to be first? And then just come up. Go for it.
Never found a microphone I could turn down, so.
Introduce yourself.
I met Sister Margaret on my first trip in 1974, and I decided they had a great pre-med program and that they sure as heck needed my help on the basketball court, I figured. And I was right about the pre-med program, right about the basketball program. They did not need my help, it turned out, but at KU, you're going to play. You can play basketball in the intramurals, and you don't need to play basketball. I really like basketball, and I think they have a really good pre-med program at Newman, Mom. I really do, and I think it's a great school, and I'm just going to be one of many at KU. So they took a trip down here to Newman with me, and we met Sister Margaret. My dad, University of Yale, graduated in chemistry, so the bar was pretty high. He met Sister Margaret, and he said, "You can go to Newman. I like Sister Margaret. She's okay in my book." And while I was here, I took organic ball for 2 years. We had a road morning on a Tuesday, and Wednesday was the exam in organic chemistry, which is one of the harder classes I took, at 8 a.m. So I asked her if I could take the test early because I wasn't going to have cramming the night before to try to do well on the test, and I'm going to be on a bus till 1 in the morning. She goes, "No, you can take it later." I said, "Say what now? Take it later?" She said, "Yeah, you can take it later. You don't have to take it early." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Let's see, how about Friday? Would Friday work for you?" She said, "Well, what time is basketball practice?" I said, "Well, we probably practice till 5 or 5:15. You get showered at the cafeteria. They close at 6. And she said, "Well, you got to, okay, so probably, how about 7 o'clock on Friday night?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "Over to your house on All Hallows?" "Yeah." I said, "Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you so much." And so at 7 o'clock, I show up at the appointed time. There are 6 or 8 sisters with bunny slippers. Their hair is in curlers. Many of them, at least. The dishwasher was running. She takes me into the kitchen. She pulls back the tablecloth so I'll have a hard surface to write on. She turned the dishwasher off so I wouldn't be bothered by the noise, and got me a plate of cookies and a glass of milk, hand to God. I was 65% on the test after all this accommodation. After that in organic chemistry, I got a B in organic chemistry that stood for barely, could have been a C. But she was one of the great, great mentors in my life, and one of the great examples of hard work and the value of an education. And I credit her greatly with any success I've had in life. I credit Sister Margaret an awful lot, moving influence in my life at a very critical time. So we will miss you, Margaret. Thank you.
It's actually perfect for me. And I took organic chemistry with Sister Margaret, and I've told this story many times, but after about a week or 2 weeks of organic chemistry, I decided it was too tough, too hard a class, and I went into her office, and she proceeded to give me some tough love. Just basically said, you are going to take this class and you will pass it and you will do well. And then the next day of class, she proceeded to teach the class in front of my desk. Stood up briefly and asked, are there any questions, and then peered down at me, and then moved back to her normal spot. But I got a good grade in the class, and I went on to get into pharmacy school that following that summer. And if it weren't for Sister Margaret, I'd be a ditch digger, or I don't know. Not that ditch digging is a bad thing, but you know, I just owe a lot of Sister Margaret, and I'll miss her a lot. And whenever I tell this story in front of people, I start to tear up. So I'm going to stop now. But you know, she was awesome. Thank you.
My name is Larry Hunt. I graduated in '74, and also took a teacher. And I'm actually a cousin of Sister Margaret. My mother is her first cousin, and that didn't help me at all in organic chemistry. She was tougher on me. But I can't imagine her being a medicine, a retired pediatrician now. School like Newman, I think, must have been tremendously tough to do. And I know she had a team of people. Dr. Singh was my advisor, but I know Sister Margaret, I think, kind of led the effort on that. And not only was she an extremely brilliant, wonderful teacher, but a very kind, gentle, loving person. And we're going to miss her.
I'm Elizabeth from her, like everyone else. But I met her during a scholarship luncheon for Newman when I was a student, and she was supposed to announce where I was going to grad school at that point, and she knew where I was down to the final two choices. So she whispered to me before, she's like, you better make me proud. And so I'd already decided that I was going to Notre Dame, but we continued to meet for lunches, and she was my pen pal. It was rough, so she was good.
Hello, my name is Hutch. I also teach in the chemistry department now. And when I was a student at Newman University, I actually did not know Sister Margaret all that well. But gosh, I got to know her really well when I came back to teach as a faculty member. About 6 or 7 years ago, we named a chemistry award for Sister Margaret. And we would always have that recipient of that award go over and eat with Sister Margaret as well. And so I got to know her through that. We moved into the Bishop Gerber Science. Her name is on outside on the plaque on my office door, so it's in honor of Sister Margaret. And one of the first dinners that we had together with her, she proceeded to ask us if any of us liked to pick. Most of them said no. I always went to a Ryan's buffet as a kid and ate pickled okra off the buffet. And so, lo and behold, Sister Margaret in her old age decided it was okra for me about every other month. So every other month I get an email that would say, hey, there's a job. So I usually go pick it up and talk with Sister Margaret for a little while. And what a cool opportunity that she displayed to develop a relationship with someone and to spend the time developing a relationship with me and my family. I know all of my kids, and they're certainly going to miss the jars of pickled okra that we got from Sister Margaret, things that I learned from her. So we love you, Sister Margaret, and we'll definitely miss you.
I'm Ann Fox and my husband Mark. We were conversing, neither of us had Sister Margaret as a teacher. You think Mark might remember. My real knowledge of her came when serving on the alumni board, the alumni director. And that job's hard, and you work a lot of hours, I can tell you that. What I would like you all to know is that Margaret was such a humble person. Curious students had done. She would go to great lengths to reconnect with a student who had been her student, and that's one of the beautiful things about Newman University is the sisters and their desire to know and love people. And she knew Lenny and Mike and Larry and many of her other students all the time. And then you would say, well, but sister, those people. It was very hard for her to reveal her own successes, and they were many. Student at Notre Dame, she's published in several textbooks. Nobody knows that stuff because she didn't talk about herself. She just had a love and a curiosity for everyone else. So if you don't know it, she always wanted and prayed for you wherever you were. She loved her. She was just a great woman, had a great ASC, a great example of Catholic women in the world. Making a difference and breaking glass ceilings for the rest of us. So we love you. We know you're praying for us and watching over this school.
I might also add that Sister Margaret was always like one of the pillars. And what I mean by that is she's always there. Every basketball game we went to, every event in this room, everything we ever went to, and that's why she was just a great lady. And we're going to miss her, but she was a great lady. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Patti Wells. I am one of her nieces. I did not have her as a teacher, but she's more important to me on the family. And we have had so many memories of her. And my mom is her sister, my mom and my dad. And help in the garden, help in the flowers, help in everything, and loved it. And I don't know if that's where her love and pickled okra came from. Maybe, but we're definitely going to miss her. Those last few weeks were, and we got to spend a few times with her when we go up there and sit with her. And even at that point, she would try to tell us about her time at Notre Dame. It was after she'd had her stroke, and her mind was working as fast as it would, as she does, but her words wouldn't come out. So excited to tell us about her professors and her teachers and everybody at Notre Dame. But I just want to say we are going to miss her dearly. Notre Dame beat Clemson. I have to say I think dearly we're going to miss her greatly.
I'm back again. Basketball made me think of a story about Sister Margaret. And I'm kind of an environmentalist. In fact, my career in medicine. Like I said, I'm retired. But we were at a basketball game, and I don't know if any of you know Kirk Lester, but he was a super fan in my generation, maybe. And he had an air horn, of course, it's powered by Freon. And every time, and tremendously loud, of course. Well, Sister Margaret was about 4 rows in front of us, and she turned around and she said, you know, Freon is destroying the ozone layer. And so I actually didn't know much about it. I did, did a little study on that, and sure enough, Freon was was not good for the environment. We actually convinced her when Vern Dr. Singh and his passion for it, like I spent a lot more effort and money and donations towards environmental causes. But she had a real passion for a lot of different things. I guess all of you know about the pre-med program and what a success it was here at Newman. And the number of pre-med students that went on to, and again, she started the program and was of that. And I think Newman and all of us went on into medicine, sure, over because of that too.
I'm Noreen Carochi, and relatively new to knowing Sister Margaret compared to so many of you. But I remember her welcoming so wonderfully warmly, and every time I saw Newman, I knew she was praying for me. Mark, what you said about her showing up, she showed up all the 12 and a half years, everything she could. With Sister Edwina in the later years, who would all know that when we were in the Facing Forward campaign, that all the sisters were praying for us. Every day, they prayed the prayer that Bishop every day. And I think Sister Margaret was one of the prayers in chief for the whole thing that was so successful. It's sad when I heard that I didn't know she'd taken a turn and had a stroke even, but God bless her. She gave so much to this institution. She will always be grateful and always will be to how gracious to the kid from Ohio. Thank you.
My name is Greg Smith. I was a student of Margaret's. When I came as a player, a major in chemistry, but freshman year I did not know Margaret. She was assigned to me as my counselor, and I met her. I was 2 weeks early my sophomore year to meet with her, and I did. That first meeting, I had my course studies laid out in which which I thought was really apropos for my situation Wednesdays and Friday, and I thought I was going to have Tuesdays and Thursdays off. So at the end of that session, my curriculum, my sophomore year, was quantum calculus, organic chemistry, and well, I think I can do this. What do I get Tuesdays and Thursdays off for study hall? She says, no, you have labs those days. And they were actually more coursework. So at my second semester sophomore year, I had went in. At that point, CAC activities or dances at the campus activity center. And she asked me, I said, are you going? And I said, I can't go. I was with Ralph Shank in physics, and I've got my struggling in calculus. I can't do this. And the next thing out of her mouth was, she said, you're going to that dance and I'm going with you. And lo and behold, my roommates and showed up there, and I'll be darned, she was there, and she set up that table and endured that, I'm sure for her, noise. We did music then. And that was well, look after my well-being, and then privately tutored. I would come over to the Wichita when I was struggling, and she would help at all hours of. so much. I owe her my education, but I owe her her love for me and how she molded me into the person I am, and how she reflects Newman's ideals, and I shall miss her dearly, and I'm proud to be an alumni of Newman University. Thank you.
I'm Greg Lowcamp, and I was very well. Knew Sister Margaret then, and then later with alumni, and for the last 17 years I've known her as being I was the administrator for the Sisters of the Adorers for the last 17 years. So I worked with Margaret, walked the journey with Margaret in her last years, and it was an honor to do so. You could probably blame me a little bit for the pickled okra, facilitating her being able to. She would go to the garden even in her scooter, and her daylights out of us sometimes. The more frail she became, but she was amazing at what she would want to do. She would call me to her room and said, "Greg, I think if we are over here, and if we do this over here, manipulate and be as independent as she could be and get things done." And so it was a real honor to be able to facilitate helping her to get to all those basketball games and all. Anyway, she was a wonderful woman, and it was a joy and an honor to be with her in the last many years of her life.
And I taught accounting here at Newman, 2002, and I got to know Sister Margaret. I don't know if she was here in '68, but she was here early in the '70s, who were sitting for the CPA exam. And she had the habit and relating to me on that exam. She would find the little 2-paragraph blurb in the Wichita Eagle that said, so-and-so sat for the exam and has passed the exam. Every fall and every spring after the exams were given, she'd come up to me and say, "Oh, I see we're so-and-so passed the exam," off their condition to the exam. Also, just to give you one, I think, a humorous incident that I'll always recall, although after I related it to her many years later, she didn't claim to remember it. But we're sitting in a faculty meeting in the old alumni lounge back in the '70s, and was waxing eloquent and on various points. And Sister Margaret was sitting right beside me, and at some point, Jim had gone on so long that she stood up and she said, "Sit down, Buster." And I looked at her, some chutzpah there, to interrupt Professor Mason, and I'll always remember that. You know, that'll stick with me till I'm gone. And to close, I knew Margaret for more than 50 years, and I've been in so many relationships which are in that range of 50 years or more, blessings of life, that you can say, I've known somebody that long. And our friendship was a very good friendship, and I'm happy for that.
Fred, I'm going to follow up with that example about Sister Margaret reading in the paper and noticing. Many of you probably don't know little ways Margaret kept contributing to Newman after she was no longer the director. She would follow the obituaries and make sure that the alumni director had the names of alumni or former faculty or staff who had died. It was part, so to speak, but it was one that she maintained until she was no longer able to do that. So many ways. So it has escaped me as one of you was talking, but I want to share a story that came to us from Jane Wickett, who was also a chemistry major in the 70s. And we had that Margaret had died. Jane sent this little email 2 days later, and she said, I just want to share this. I was working on a degree in gerontology, and she had this major paper due, and I edit for her, and she said she called me in tears and said, and all I can find is my old copy. I can't find my new revision on the computer anyplace. And she was asking for Jane, how do I try to find this? And Jane couldn't help her. And so they both ended up the conversation with her cousin in tears. And thought, Margaret, I know you're in a new place, and you probably haven't found your way around yet to really know as well. But I want you to know my cousin needs your help. She cannot find this paper that's due this. Help her find it. And, oh, by the way, thanks. A couple hours later, she gets a phone call from her cousin who had managed to find the paper. Jane said, I said, thanks, Margaret, my next favor. So, if you in situations, we've already got an example of where Margaret did that for Jane. Gives me hope. So we want to thank everybody for coming. There are brownies and water in the back. Continue to socialize, to share your, and to remember Margaret or watch the whole slideshow if you haven't done that. To all of you who are watching via live streaming, thank you very much for joining us. We wish you are so happy you were able to join you. And so let's pray in closing our prayer of remembrance again. And we'll reverse sides this time. You do the first side, you do the second verse. And when we get to the last one, we'll pray it. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds, we remember her. In the rustling of the leaves, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and of the age, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we have joys and we are to share, we remember her. And together, so she too shall live, for she is now part of us as we remember her. Amen. And thank you. If you didn't pick up a memorial card, they're out on the table. If you happen to miss them, please do. Thank you.